Hi, I'm Quinn. I'm the Smith College Ceramics Club Orientation Leader, and I'm going to give you a virtual tour and orientation of the Smith College Ceramics Studio. So starting off, we have our Works in Progress shelf. This is where you will store any pieces that you're actively working on. When you put pieces on this shelf, you have a couple different options of how to keep them nice and workable. The first option is you can put them in these bins. If they're labeled for classes, please don't put your work in here. But if they are not labeled for classes, feel free to put your stuff in there. You can also place your works in progress on a board that we have available in the studio. When you do this, make sure that you cover your work in plastic so it stays nice and workable. If you want your clay to dry out so you can trim your piece, you can leave it uncovered for about 24 to 48 hours, depending on the size of your piece, and then come back and trim it when it's leather hard. When you leave works on this shelf, remember to put your name and the date that you're working on it on there so that you can know how to find your work. And also, if your work has been sitting on the shelf untouched for several months, we can get rid of it and make room for new pieces. When you're throwing on the wheel, you want to use one of these bats, but make sure that you take your work off of the bat before you store it in the works in progress section, and then you can just put it on a board so it keeps its shape. This is our greenware shelf. This is where you can store pieces that you're done working on and ready to be fired. When you put your work on the shelf, remember to label it with your initials or your artist mark so that we can fire it and you can know which piece is yours and you don't mix it up with anyone else's. When you're putting stuff on the shelf, remember to make sure that it is not wet or workable anymore and that it is bone dry. And also make sure to be really careful that you're not knocking over anyone's work when you put stuff on this shelf. This is our bisque work shelf. This is where you're picking up your work after it has gone through a kiln firing. Remember when you're picking up work from the shelf to check for your initials or artist mark in order to make sure that you're picking up the right piece. And same with the greenware shelf, just making sure that you're being really careful not to knock anyone's work because it can be really fragile when it's in this stage. We have bisque work here, and then we have older bisque work in containers on the bottom shelf. And some of it is also stored in the back. So if you can't find your piece out here, talk to a board member and they will help you get your work from the back so you can pick it up. This is our glazed work shelf. This is where after you pick up your piece from the bisqueware shelf and glaze it, this is where you set it so it can go through a glaze firing. Just a reminder that when you're glazing your work, you want to leave the bottom 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch unglazed so that it won't stick to the kiln. If your piece sticks to the kiln, it might ruin your piece and it'll definitely ruin the kiln. So just making sure that you're wiping off the bottom of your work. A lot of the time, if your piece has glaze on the bottom, we won't be able to fire it. And if that happens, we will leave you a sticky note like this that will tell you, hey, your glaze is too thick, or we need you to wipe off the bottom. So if you glazed a piece a while ago and you're noticing that it is not on the finished work shelf, you might want to check back here and see if your piece has any post-it note on it. And so you can resolve that issue and we can get it fired as soon as possible. This is our finished work shelf. This is where you pick up your piece when it is totally done and ready for you to take home. Same with all the other shelves, just make sure that you're looking for your initials or artist mark when you're picking up work. Yeah, this is where you pick it up when the process is over.